of people came to this country, were welcomed by the folks who have lived here for millennia, the First Nation. And built this society with waves of people fleeing religious persecution, fleeing tyranny, fleeing to try and build a better life for themselves here than they had back home. Whether it's folks fleeing from world wars or fleeing from civil wars, these people always want the same thing: to be able to live in peace, to raise their families, to create a better future for themselves and their communities. And that is what generations created, this extraordinary diverse society we have. Now, Canada remains one of the only countries in the world where citizens are, by and large, positively kind. And one of the reasons we are that way is because Canadians have confidence in our country.
Welcome to MKCANADA. I'm Andreas. How's it going, Kurt? How you doing over there?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
He survived the intro. Yes, that's Kurt from American Time Machine. Below is Jordan from Divulgence Podcast. Happy Remembrance. Preemptive Remembrance Day. I think that's kind of being exciting. It's a Canadian kind of thing, is a Remembrance Day. And Don to help us explain the world and to the world what Remembrance Day is. How you doing, Don? What's up?
Oh, no pressure. I'm good. How are you?
It's not the only thing going on. We're not going to be just like completely stuck on it. But like, I am curious. I think Kurt, you're like, do you know what Remembrance Day, Kurt, is?
No, I do not.
It's like a thing. It's like a holiday. Jordan, what's Remembrance Day? Have you heard of this?
Dude, of course. It's huge in Canada. It's every year. It's a stat holiday. I mean, it's a government thing and all that.
What's it about? Is it about something?
First World War.
Oh,
yeah, like
the First World War, remembering Canadian soldiers that fought in the war, and now we observe it. It's a day of memorial, essentially.
Poppy Day. Oh, that's even brutal.
Yeah.
You guys ever call it Poppy Day?
We wear our poppies in the start of November, and then on Remembrance Day, there's a ceremony. I think late morning, give or take, if I'm not mistaken. And I think it's the 11th hour. And there we go. And we lay our poppies down. And
11th hour, 11th day of the 11th month. What?
Yeah. So there's a lot of numbers going on there. So we could give us something to jump into. So maybe that's something for us to explore tonight.
But this is like a big, broad thing. It doesn't just say Canada. This is like all the Commonwealth member states.
Absolutely. It's big in the UK as well.
So what's the Commonwealth? This is like the English
World War. So that's why it encompasses other Commonwealth countries.
So this is the states of the British Empire. What's left of the empire has become the British Commonwealth. This is the United States of England. Is that what going on here?
That would be correct. Yep.
Essentially. Yep.
Okay. So the
empire was ruling with an iron fist, so to speak.
So I'm sorry to interject because sorry everyone, hello. Hello to the guests. I got up at 4:30 this morning, and so I'm not focused as much as I could or should be. And so before I lose my train of thought, for November 11th, I actually just had something today. That's why I'm wearing some my medals and some insignia, is because I went to my nephew's school.
Oh wow!
And so I spoke at the gym today, and so I was actually in another province. I was in Quebec, and I was speaking at my nephew's school, and I was discussing this very thing, Remembrance Day. It's again tomorrow. You're right, but today they're having events in 11 different schools, and so for me, everyone has their own interpretation of what Remembrance Day is, and I even have the Canadian flag, lest we forget, right on my wall.
Wow! Wait, go back to it. What's it
say? Xirtus is dicking around. Here we go.
A lot of
Lest we forget. I couldn't hear you what you were saying, but what did you
couldn't
say?
hear anything you just said.
I'm sorry about that. What did you hear?
You're chopping up a bit, Don. So maybe just wait a second. There you go. I think you're back. Okay, you're good. You're good.
And what's the last thing you heard?
Oh, just when
None
you
of
pointed it to the wall, we didn't hear what you said when you pointed it. But what does it say on it?
Okay.
Lest we forget.
So yeah, lest we forget, it just discusses all the operations for Afghanistan that we attributed to, and so for the fallen soldiers on the flag, it's for Up Apollo, Up Athena, Up Archer, Up Impact, and OEF, and so but again, there's obviously again the other world wars that we've been involved in, and the other wars that we've been involved in, and so when I was speaking to the school, I kept it light, right, because my nephew, he's only in grade 6.
Sure.
And so, like I did say, that this is absolutely a time where we pay tribute to the fallen, and I know that more than most, right? Because even someone that I love Dr. deeply, I actually carried his medal and his beret in the Chinook, overseas, and that wasn't easy, right? And so and then I did, even after that, humanitarian aid missions, and I was literally all over Afghanistan, and again, I lost a lot of people, and I was the battle group Empire Gate embarkation officer as well, and so like I was doing flight manifests and all the manifests, like the road moves and the air travel and the trains and all that stuff. And so whenever we lost anyone, right, I was taking those people off lists too. And it was just not easy either, right? And so like this is a day where like I don't think that people should be feel shame or guilt or anything like that. But like I do believe that there should be like a moment of like appreciation,
Right.
like just like in a way that like we're more happy, right, and more appreciative of what we have, especially in Canada. And being like more happy and more joyful. And today, like when I see kids playing and they're happy and they're safe, when I've been overseas and I've seen really graphic things where their children passed because of IEDs or other things, I appreciate the fact that I can be in a country where it's free and I don't want it to not be free, because I know more than most. And so a lot of people that I know personally know more than most what it means to be of sacrifice.
But do you feel like the connection to like Britain? So I hear, so it's interesting because it does sound like Veterans Day and it's a celebration in Canada, but also it's part of the Commonwealth, and it has to do with King George's continuation of the empire, right? So do you feel like is there kind of a conflict there?
I could talk on this again, and yeah, for me, again, personally, like this is not like 100%. This is just my own observations and my own perspectives. But I mean, I do have like my family lineage being like Irish, Scottish, even degrees as well. And so William Wallace apparently is a direct descendant, and so even my great aunt had to give permission in order for Braveheart to be to actually be released. And so there's people that fought against England, right, in my family that got executed, apparently, allegedly. And so there's like a little bit more like of a history where I don't know, like when you look at the more esoteric occult stuff and you look at the like these possible resets and how certain groups possibly like manipulated and exploited different countries and things like that, I don't know, it just gets a little convoluted, and I don't really necessarily know if I support what I think is being enabled, and being represented by a symbol that's supposed to be of virtue and love and harmony and peace when because I'm on Signal and Telegram, because I'm a high-level security analyst. Even now, right? I do a lot of security work internationally. I just, with what I know, I can't really be as supportive of possibly that leadership, and that is what's coming to a lot of backlash in my own community, because a lot of people right now they're really into like the Commonwealth, and they really supported the Queen. Everyone watched the funeral. I did not, and then even with like it's like Hail the King, and I'm just like,
yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Hail the King.
Oh my God, like we're going to fucking war again. Sorry for swearing. Oh my God.
Oh, that's all right. It happens. But like, so if we're having a kingdom that's this worldwide kingdom, and Remembrance Day is kind of about the last king, I mean, do you think that that's part of the thing? How much of Canada do you think is interested in being part of the world empire, the British world empire, or whatever it would be?
I think that there's more interest in like these elitists and these controllers than there is in like the majority of the population, right? And we're right now, sorry,
Agreed.
like the script right now is being written by them, right? And so we're just having to try to like get beyond the psyops. But even in the last like 2.5 years, 3 years alone, I have not been busier like with my underground communities, like on Signal and Telegram, with like just like a lot of stuff that's been on the go. That's not it like a lot of stuff has escalated. and not just with like the convoys and with the construction stuff and with the human trafficking and with the wars escalating and with the like viruses that we're not isolating variants and all these other things and then even with using gematria, this universal language we talked about in the last episode, you could see it like a lot of these like different groups too. They use different like mathematics or different numbers to like represent like different groups and like where they come from. So even within their own like universal language systems that they use, they're still communicating like anyways that way as well. So it gets confusing too. Sorry, I talk a lot when I'm tired.
No, it happens. I was just thinking about the world, you know, it's like the world's got so many different players in it, but we think of it like every player is equal, and they're not. There's some players that are more powerful than others. And so, you know, it makes me wonder about the future of the world, saying freedom and things like that. I mean, millions of Canadians and Australians and South Africans, you know, collectively, like the Commonwealth, so many people died for the British monarchy, you know. And so this is kind of, it's like on one hand, there's that, but then on the other hand, like you said, there's so many people, including yourself, that have fought for the continuity of Canada today, which is like, how similar is it? How connected is it? How concerned are you that this is going to lead back to being a state in an empire?
It depends on the flavor of the decade. Like they all have, like, there's different periods of different periods of life, I guess, or different periods of time that there's different types of events that happen that kind of like that are tipping points for other events, right? And then it's rinse, repeat, recycle, right? So like even with with pandemics, like this is not something that's new. This is something that we've been doing for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And this is where we're and then it's even with political parties, like when they change, it's all very like to people like me that do the predictive patterning and the chronology piece. It's very obvious like what comes after, like, you know, like other things, right? And so like I don't necessarily think that just because like we could see like what's going on right now with Russia and Ukraine, for example, and we can define that battlefield there. Like I do believe that there's also a battlefield, cyber, like obviously being one of them. And yeah, I could go on a tangent, right? Like just everything is connected. They're misleading us, and they keep on distracting us with different messaging in different countries and different groups even. And that's what keeps us like just infighting, right? And it's always by two, or it's generally by two. So that
Oceania's always been at war with Eurasia, right? Is Simon Clarice says, has she gone down the highway of heroes? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I've multiple times, yeah, and I've actually done road trips across Canada in my Jeep, and actually with my dogs too, even. But like through the Yukon, all the way back, all the way through PEI, and up north. I've been all over.
It's a decent drive for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely amazing. It's gorgeous. I highly recommend it. And you can see a lot of old ancient sites that have been covered up or flooded out or.
But this is interesting. Like Quebec elected officials must swear oath to King Charles to sit on National Assembly. We're seeing a bunch of this, kind of like you're saying, but in public, in limelight, like the most important influencers. You know, I mean, how far is this going to go? Swearing oaths to King Charles. What do you think? I mean, that's what I see.
It's not like anything necessarily new, because like there was even the choice of like swearing oaths to the Queen, right? Like before this, like when you're in any type of like federal like institution, I don't know why, or like this is provincial, and but Quebec, like this is another one of those the script and the defined division that we have, like this role we play as Canadians, like being like hyper tolerant and like multicultural, all this stuff, even though like we're really not tolerant at all. But like with Quebec, like they have their own language, which is French, and then like the remainder of Canada we say is English when there's multiple different languages and dialects. And then there's like different like religious delineations as well, right? Even with within Christianity, and then the Roman Catholic versus the Protestant, like where they wouldn't even be able to be buried in the same graveyard. Like that's how ridiculous this stuff is. Yeah, right? And then wars again fought over religion, and I keep going.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like there's a lot of secrets being kept, and also just the idea of like this international group. So earlier you were talking about this book to me. This might seem like a tangent, but hear me out. I think it's connected. Tell me a little bit about the Children of the Sun.
Good.
yeah, I like that's just something that I haven't even really like delved into too much, honestly, yet. Like that's just something in the last few days. Like I'm looking more like, well, a refresher too for these these older like esoteric books, right? Where there's like occult, which just means hidden information. And this is just like another one of those another occult book that a lot of these like leaders at the high ends, right? They have
and
these,
like a history of the settlement of the Egyptians on the Pacific, right? It's crazy.
Yeah. And the history is different too. And so what we're being led to believe is like our ancient history, even in Canada. Like if you look at these like more occult books, like that one, for example, it does paint like a very different picture. Whereas possible like there's possible civilizations that came from like the entirely different continents, right? Like there's a switch that happens whenever there's like possible resets or natural and man-made events that take out entire areas. Yeah, we just keep doing this stuff. So there's a lot of information, even with just one second here, even with Deciphering the Devil's Details on YouTube. He has a really good YouTube channel on a lot of this old world stuff, specifically for Canada and the US, Turtle Island or whatever you want to call it, and even with like old ruins and like old fires that like covered up older infrastructure, like where there's even like maps of like full out like more advanced civilizations and buildings and stuff like that, even in the Montreal, Ottawa areas that predates the 17 and 1800s even, and how even it goes on from there. And there's a lot of information we can talk about, but we were talking about Remembrance Day and I went on to like that.
Well, so the thing that's interesting about it is the idea that Canada isn't just this like active manifest destiny. Manifest destiny is this idea for the kids today that the West was won because it was just ripe for the picking. Nobody knew how to take care of it, and all of a sudden, these Europeans showed up in the 16th, 17th, 19th century essentially, and then because of them, the West was saved. Right? This is manifest destiny, and that it was just burnt down leftovers with teepees on it because the natives didn't know how to treat it. That is the idea of manifest destiny. And it's a pretty big, there are still tons of buildings that have manifest destiny declarations, post offices, water and power buildings in San Francisco, lodges for fraternal organizations talking about manifest destiny. But the thing is, it's a very Eurocentric and even at odds with a further back Eurocentricity idea of this kind of Tartaria. There were Atlantis and advanced civilizations that were even in the West, which we see examples of. That's the thing that is pointed out in the Children of the Sun. Say it again.
Mathieu de Costa. Maybe just like Matthew de Costa, Dacosta. And he's from like the 1600s too, like around Samuel Champlain time frame, and he was like 1604, 1600. So look at him, and he's like one of like the first settlers of Canada, right, in like the Quebec region. And Samuel Champlain, he like arrived in 1604 and 1608, and so like there's just like
a black Frenchman, or is he Basque?
Yeah, that's right. And so this is just other stuff, right? That would lead me to believe that. That possibly like even like the more original inhabitants look more like Mathieu de Costa and the French settling areas. And even like in a lot of like different texts and journals that people had and diaries, they were discussing like very big differences between like French, like French being a language and anyways, just like the differentiating between like skin colors and the fact that a lot of more people were more well received because they were of the same color skin. And anyway.
No, that's an important point. So even when the we talk about the Underground Railroad and everything, part of the deal is it's just to French places, because even in Louisiana, and which went in and extended through Minnesota into Canada. Yeah, so like Louisiana included. Let's see if I can look at the Louisiana.
Yeah, Creole is French, like essentially, like
right. Creole is from like Cajun. It's from Arcadian, so. It all goes back. I want to see if I can find like in the original versions of this, it goes up into Upper Lake, right? And the Nouveau France included areas here, and then they lost parts of it, so up to the Minnesota border, which is why it's a weird cutoff point there when you look at Minnesota. See how it comes around, the lake comes in, so there's a little tip of Canada that's in the United States, and there's a part of the United States that's in Canada. Like it gets all convoluted right around because of the Louisiana
Maine
Purchase.
is close to us, like Maine, because even with New Brunswick, like there's been like great fires in like the in the Gaspésie and the great fires of New Brunswick, actually, Miramichi specifically. And
Look at the flag for New
and
Brunswick.
it impacted Maine as well.
That flag. Right, so
Yeah.
is the Tartarian yellow and black is a big thing too, which is like New York continues to use, and
The red sky and
the red dragon sky, the stormy sky.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you type in the fires, let's see if I type in Great Fires.
The Great Fire of Ottawa, maybe.
1877, Great Fire of St. John, New
Oh
Brunswick.
yeah, there's a few fires like in Montreal, Ottawa. Like whenever there's like more developed areas, there seems to like follow some kind of like a disaster. And even these great fires, like the speed at which they it traveled, like people like were not able to like outrun this or anything like that, right? And people essentially, a lot of people died unless they were by water, and even animals were sharing water with people, and entire infrastructure wiped out, except for the older buildings, the ones that predated 1700s that were being told like are built in the 1800s. Really? Because we have no way of duplicating that even now. Like I'm looking at like what we do now, like we are de-evolving with like our designs and our infrastructure and our like what we're doing, like what we're creating. We need more artists. Sorry.
No, it's true.
What picture is that, Xirtus? Sorry to interrupt. What picture is that?
This says the Great Fire at St. John's, New Brunswick, 1877, June 20th.
Thank you.
The fire broke out on York Point at 2:30 p.m. and burned furiously until after midnight, consuming several hundred buildings, among which were the post office, Custom House Academy of Music, 11 churches, a number of hotels, banks, and various public buildings, the entire business portion of the city, and vessels at the wharves. 13 lives were lost. The total loss estimate at $25 million in 1877. Wow.
So, yeah, even with that, like like the Golden Dawn, like even Freemasonry, like these, like I don't know how like occult or hidden these groups are anymore, but like this universal language, I don't know if I was talking about this on this YouTube live or the pre-show, but just like how even different like occult groups or leaders, they actually even have like their own, like it's not even just like a universal numbering system with mathematics that's used in like the events, like when the mainstream media like publicizes this stuff, but like even different groups have their own different like numbering systems.
13 lives lost, yeah, like the 13 Demolay, Night of Demolay's burning Sinclair's, right?
Like 33 is used a lot, for example, and 44 and 23.
23 Enigma's good. Have you ever seen that movie? Not the Jim Carrey one. 23 German movie. It's actually like 32.
I think I've heard of that.
Oh, it's so good. This is like they made that other movie just so you wouldn't watch 23 32. But like basically it takes place in 1989. He's a hacker. Totally true story about this kid who was obsessed with Robert Anton Wilson and the Illuminati, and he went and the number 23. And then he's like, the number 23 is following me around, which is what William Burroughs said, Robert Anton Wilson said. A bunch of people are obsessed with 23. And he ended up going missing. And it's likely that the CIA or the KGB or somebody, took him out is the thing. But yeah, great movie. Amazing look at like the numerological truth. I never saw I want to see Nick Cage.
I'll have to rewatch that one.
It's legit.
That's interesting. But yeah, like even 2 divided by 3 is like point like 666 or whatever you want to call it, like down the line. So there's that like occult, like satanic kind of like ritualistic stuff as well. And then like 2 plus 3 is 5, and then you got like 5 fingers and like on the side. And then even 2, like if you separate the 2 and the 3, you've got like duality, cooperation, witness, yin and yang, all of that stuff. And
118 is a pretty good one, right?
Yeah,
Gematria.
yeah.
So I have a great
18's
story.
value is death, in Gematria, which is kind of funny, and Rachel and Daphne. There's a couple good ones, but death, hook, homicide and death in one, that's pretty stellar. Yeah, 118 comes up a lot.
So even with like the numberings too, like it was on 7/11 on November 7th, because you can switch up numbers too, right? It could be 7/11 or 7/11 or 11/7 or 171. And so, for example, we have our leader of the Conservative Party, who just like the other day, like on that same day, but it was in the evening. Like that morning, I posted just like 7/11, 117, And then that evening, like, there's a story that he posted, right, that it had like 171, like stats, like whatever, and so he, like, I don't know if he's like biting on like what like the script keepers, and he's just sharing what he's told to, or if he actually is the one that's in charge of, or that knows that he's the one that's like.
But that's what's weird about 11/11/11, because like it's such like a make a wish to take over your nation kind of thing to use 11/11.
And it's a master number, and then you've got like the pillars, and then the Gemini, with Vesica Pisces with the 11 as well, and yeah, even with that, you can just go on like a list, right?
What happened with the SS Noronic though? Because it looks way worse than the Titanic. At first, I was like, "Oh, it's another Titanic."
Yeah,
but now
it's
I'm
crazy. It's a pretty wild story, but I have a personal experience tied to this actually. So, my grandfather would travel the ships all the time. This particular ship went from, I believe, part of its journey, the core part of its journey was Thunder Bay through to Sault Ste. Marie to Toronto, and my grandfather was going from Thunder Bay to Sault Ste. Marie, and his buddy, his best friend at the time that he worked with, was getting on the ship to take off to Toronto. I believe they were headed to Toronto, and my grandfather got off the ship, and then it sunk, and then that's when this fire happened. And it's crazy. It was a very nice ship.
It was a fire. That's the thing. So like the fire freaks me out. How does it sink and catch fire and explode? Basically, it looks like all the boilers exploded
right
while it was sinking.
This is another thing that gets me unpopular as well, right? In my network, right? Because like where I'm saying things like 9/11 was staged and planned, and that there was training missions in the same area, and
saying things like that. America. No, I was kidding.
Like that stuff, right? Allegedly, I got it. Sorry, bring me in, Andreas.
No, I was kidding.
So does that? So I
thought that fires that I'm talking about that are like
I thought that was a crazy story. So shout out to my grandfather Eddie Seminary. But
yeah, good job you survived that. That's insane.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. This
intuition.
Wow.
Do you think that looks suspicious, Andreas?
As Carrie Lake says, do you think this stuff is normal? I don't think. I don't know, bro. I don't know. I mean, boilers explode, but like usually, like you can stop it before it happens. I think.
It was a huge fire. I mean, obviously, it was bad to the point where it sunk. But I mean, if you look at some pictures, including that one, like you can see, it spread fairly quick, and it was pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It seems like if it's a huge fire, and if it was in like a middle room, you could like suffocate it or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think
right.
you can stop it with all this water around you. But I don't know. I was never. That would be like the most. All I gotta say is like, if it's real, then and regardless, this is the movie I'd rather make, the Canadian Titanic, because the SS Noronic is hilarious and it's horrible. But like, imagine how horrifying it is to be drowning on fire. Yeah, it's another level that I think is. They didn't even get there with Titanic is the thing.
Yeah, sure.
The Titanic sunk off our coast too, right? Like across our east coast.
Could be something to look into. I'm gonna write it down.
I don't know, bro.
There's a lot of events where it's more
Grandpa Eddie on the show.
Right?
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying, Don?
If your grandpa's alive, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
He's been, man. Wow. He's like 90, 91, I think.
Oh yeah, you got to record him. You got to do this. Everyone should record old people. Everyone should record them and make sure young people see the recordings. That's like the most important thing you can do.
Yeah. My mom does it all the time. We record them all the time when I see them too. So
good. Memories are, they're trying to take them away from people. So exactly, if you show the kids what they remember really happening, it's almost always different than the newspapers reported it. But sorry, John, you were going to say something about there's other events like this.
No, I just feel bad because I keep on cutting him off, and I just and I hate doing that. I'm so sorry.
No worries, I'm done.
There's just certain like events that have happened within Canada, well, in a lot of different areas, and I have been in a lot of different areas of the world. But it just seems like that these events, again, it's just very fast, it's very abrupt, it's very destructive, and it just seems like it's possibly something that was more planned, and where like the most like impact and damage could be made in the fastest period of time.
Kevin, if you're just joining us, which it looks like you might be, we just started talking about all of these things that have happened in Canada since Remembrance Day, which are a little weird, and how weird it is that Remembrance Day is this British Empire holiday where they make everybody in all the states they conquered and sacrificed their children from on the 11th month of the 11th day at the 11th hour do this whole King George ritual. And now there's all this swearing of allegiance to King George for the... You saw that, right?
I forgot all about it, man. I forgot about Remembrance Day.
Yeah, right?
Ray!
You remember Remembrance Day now.
Our trusty leader is all the way in he's in the Philippines or some shit during Remembrance Day.
Oh, that checks out.
Yeah.
Trans hooker or what? What is he up to?
Working at Tofino during like the like last year's.
But these are all the states of the Commonwealth, you know what I mean? And so like these are all the states that have to celebrate Remembrance Day. And
jeez, man, they did a good job, huh?
Yeah, I mean, people think America, United States of America, but this is United States of the Commonwealth, right? Because these are international states, and according to international political science. So I don't know. That's what gets me. And then also we talked about the SS Noronic. The SS Noronic is the Titanic that caught fire, which Jordan's grandfather, who is alive still, survived this, got off the boat the day before the fire. So
wow.
In Thunder Bay.
I'm starting to think maybe he could be involved now. I'm starting to think.
Right? Yeah, but look at the boilers exploded. Fire on the boat.
Sorry.
Jesus, I'm starting to think like he used to work for Esso. He was big in the gas company. I'm starting to think he's the Canadian George Bush Sr., man. Like
that's pretty exciting stuff.
Man.
And then Don was talking about how, improbable some of these things are. And it was reminding me of If Day, which, If Day Canada is the fun event where Canadians pretended the Nazis were invading and they made like fake newspapers that said they're Winnipeg Lugenblatt instead of the Winnipeg Tribune. And then they wore Nazi outfits. And then they were like, see, this is what happens if you don't buy war bonds. So a lot of like crisis acting in the days of old,
Yep.
Wow, there's really nothing new, huh?
I mean, so when did If Day happen again? Oh, it was February, so it had nothing to do with the 11th month, but
February
still
19th.
Right.
Wow.
And then this is the fire, the 1877 fire of New Brunswick, which just looks like terrifying because it's the only thing left is just this Sodom and Gomorrah salt pillars everywhere and bricks, that just kind of survive the haze, but. They say like 13 people died. They're like hundreds of buildings destroyed. The entire city was evacuated. 13 people died. And
how is it that every city's had one of those mud flood style fires at some point?
Right?
Like Chicago's had it everywhere. New York's had it a bunch. That's funny.
Ottawa's great fire too, if you want to put that up. But yeah, like you were saying with the 13 casualties, 13 deaths, there's a lot of people that say that it was a lot more than that, and that they're just saying that because then it goes with the script or the narrative that there was like more primitive, like austere civilizations, you know what I mean? That came with from teepees and not these advanced castles and stuff like that we have. Like
dang, yeah, giant buildings, people just standing around. Just completely. This is crazy. I mean, it's a huge city. Ottawa's not small, and it was big. It was very Victorian looking. And just completely wiped out. And this is all around the same time, the 1870s, 1850s, 1870s, after Civil War time. Canada is going through these, and North is going through these crazy fires, which were resetting everything, getting rid of all the museums, all the books. Pretty crazy. Dude, that flag, that shield too. I mean, that's nuts.
Yeah, break this shield down for me. What do you see?
I mean, golden spoon. So that tells
good,
you who's
man.
in charge, bro, in the top left.
And I see a freaking heroin spoon and a needle and a bag of dope.
All right. I mean, there's a compass, and the compass is pointing northeast. So maybe
Towards
something
England?
to do with
Yeah,
the
I guess
hyperbole.
that is Ottawa, I guess, from the city. Ottawa would be northeast.
Speaking of which, if you guys want some like dope MKCANADA gear, you guys can get yourself the new MKCANADA gear, which is super fly.
Yeah.
And let me go to the where's the Where's the hoodie?
That thing looks great on a sweater or a hoodie.
Yeah, where's the crew neck sweatshirt?
Especially in a white or like a gray, and it looks great on a sticker because it's a perfect square and it's a great shape for a sticker.
Yep. I mean, and coffee mug, wake up in the morning and think about how messed up the world is in Canada. Everything on the stores is on sale now. So yeah, get yourself some Xirtus gear. But okay, in terms of the fire of Canada and the Great Shield of Canada, here's the map of Ottawa. This is the area that was destroyed. It's all on waterfront. The whole thing is all surrounded by water, right? This part maybe not.
Yeah.
Well, there's water in the back here too.
The river twice. That just seems crazy.
I mean, it's a lot.
Ottawa, Montreal, multiple fires during multiple resets. It's and that's why, like, I don't understand why we just keep on doing that. We're using the same types of companies, doing the same types of stuff. Now even worse, and it's just like it's setting us up. It's setting us up for more of these events to happen, right? And we're ignorant to think that this won't happen again, or that we're more advanced than we ever were, or that we're more evolved than we ever were. It's just not true.
Well, there's also like, so one of the things you look at, like the socialist movement in the 19th century. And so a lot of these places were really into socialism and trying to get out of the hand of the monarchy too. So it's interesting, like how many of these big cities were philosophical university centers, Canada. And so like the taking over of the socialist parties was a major movement by the elite, right? Like take over because it's such a unique and useful managerial theory to feed everyone out of the same trough. So if you can control it, then it's useful. It's part of the Fabianism.
It's centralized.
Let's see.
It's weird. Like you can centralize socialism, and that's probably one of the main disadvantages. Is just because you have to consolidate power in one way or another, and it becomes hard to disperse it in the way that you need it to. So it's like, I don't know. I view economic systems as being like, are you effed or more effed? It's there aren't really good options that we've presented before the world. I went off on a tangent though.
No, that's legit. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, so then it also brings up Don's point. It's like, okay, so but then, yeah, the British government's crazy, but then Canada, it's so full of a lot of cool Canadians. Like I like almost all the Canadians I know. So almost. Kevin.
Yeah, but we're fighting to get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so that's the thing. It's like it seems like there has to be a point where Remembrance Day becomes an Independence Day for Canada.
I think all of it. Okay, go ahead, Don.
Well, we have our Canada Day that we beat you guys to the punch. We got July 1st. You guys booked the 4th.
Right, that's cute.
I think it's all just it's to make us feel better about the military-industrial complex. That's what Veterans Day.
South Parkian name, Canada Day. God, and we can celebrate this too. It's true. Look at the Queen celebrating Canada Day. See what I mean? Anybody can do it.
Yeah, what happens to us now? We're under the rule of the king now?
Yeah.
That's fucking weird, man. I don't get what's going on.
So
and the
democracy, so it's just like symbol and representation.
You got muted. I can't, for some reason, it's muffling you.
Yeah, the King Charles is muffling you.
Can you hear me now?
It's a little muffling.
Sounds like the mic is covered, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yes.
Better?
Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah, we're a constitutional monarchy, so like we have like that status symbol, like we have like that representation of like the monarchy, just in status or symbol alone, and not so much in like how we do our system of governance. And we still have like a governor general that has that same like representative piece. Currently an Indigenous member for the first time ever, female, and so we still have that like that symbol, that representation here, but it's more again in just in like symbol. I don't know.
But you've also got, so the Constitution of Canada, first off, Canada's monarchy, the British government, they're a constitutional monarchy without a written constitution. Canada's written constitution is an amalgamation, says Wikipedia. I mean, it's of various codified acts, treaties between the crown and indigenous peoples, both historic and modern, uncodified traditions and conventions. Indigenous peoples, you know, including the French. That is the way that they codified the Constitution of Canada.
So it was Pierre Elliott Trudeau, like in the late 70s or in the early 80s. He actually missed completely even talking to Indigenous peoples, by the way, just for the record. And then it was brought in, and that's why it took longer to repatriate the Constitution in 1982. And that's where like everything was like kind of amalgamated like this. And but even with like, oh yeah, and that was Pierre Elliott Trudeau, like Justin Trudeau's father, just so I don't know if anyone knows that. And so Justin Trudeau is our current like liberal leader that's in power in Canada under a minority government. And so that was his father. And
yeah, we're going through our George Bush phase. we that's what it is. We had Big Daddy Trudeau in the 70s, 80s, whenever it was. And now we got the cocaine addict, young punk, blackface Trudeau,
the young gunner, the hot stuff, the mystery man, the deep thinker, the problem solver, the captain of the team, the alpha dog, the mystery boy.
You said that we can't swear on this show, so you're making it so hard. You're making it so hard.
I could do it like another way. Hold on.
But even before we repatriated,
I am the president of Canada. That's kind of how I feel.
I'm curious, as if you know how we have we have deeply developed conspiracies about like Pizzagate and stuff. I'm wondering if that extends in Canada, like people have fully formed the conspiracy of Fidel Castro being his father.
Oh, you know what it is, man. If you talk to any of the natives here, like the indigenous people, the natives to this land, man, they have so many stories from time, like passed on through families of like, man, all these, the Queen used to roll through and kids would go missing, and we're just finding out about it now. And now we're trying to get everybody angry about 50 years ago, but nobody's paying attention to right now. It's we have our fair share. We've been doing it.
Right.
In the Gaspésie, we have the indigenous communities there, and I actually I had friends that I grew up with that were like on the reserves, and then also like I went and I traveled to the Yukon and I met up with some people that were from those communities too. And they talk about this stuff too, where they were saying even like multiple decades ago, the queen and her husband would go there, and then kids would go missing, and they try to get it out there, and they tried until their last freaking breath, right, to like get vindication or justice or that stuff. And but even now, there's still like abductions and human trafficking that's happening, where there's 25,000 kids alone every year that go missing in Canada, and it's part of this stuff, right? And it's more in these northern regions where we push people out, where we've caused a lot of damage before. These natural, man-made, in my opinion, like EMP type events that have wiped out all these areas, made it where we can't build soil, or there's no like life, right? And then doing this to people and lying about their history too, and lying about how advanced they were, and I just can't. Like I'm not supposed to swear. Oh, but yeah.
Also, there was that show that came out recently, The Order, right? Have you guys seen The Order? This is a Canadian.
Oh yeah, dude, it's Canadian. Right?
This is a Canadian Skull and Bones show, so this kind of I feel like embodies what answers Kurt's question. So it's kind of the idea of is the Hermetic Order of the Blue Rose, and they're
Have you watched all of it, Xirtus?
No, I haven't yet.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't care about spoilers because it is what it is. It's all stuff written 1,000 years ago in the Book of Thoth. Come on, man, it's Canada. So they're gonna follow tradition. That's the point. But yeah, no, it's important, I think, as far as I can tell. Yeah, and it's showing, hey, there's an elite group. What is the group again on the East Coast with the money, the Canadian money, like the neighborhood?
East Coast, like a rich group. I mean, our East Coast is generally not really like they're more like that.
Or what is the richest neighborhood in Canada that runs everything? What's it called? After the base. Mont Royal, Calgary, Eagle Ridge. I forget. Like the people who run Canada. There's like a group. There's a group of people that run Canada. Ryan Stone was bringing up like a while ago. Like the elite families have like some areas.
Oak Island, like
no, I don't know. Maybe I forget. I mean, so isn't that though the idea that there's like a super elite group of Canadians, and like that's where cannibals come from? Or what do you guys look at? What's your Canadian conspiracy?
Well, even with the underground tunneling systems that are underneath, like a lot of even like older churches and a lot of older like palaces and mosques and temples and like whatever, like wherever region you're from, like whatever like designs lasted or didn't get covered up or ruined or destroyed or flooded over, they had these underground tunneling systems where they do a lot of like the transportation of humans, right? And so and there's also been periods of time too possibly where I'm being led to believe that there could have been times where like it was not safe or like for us to be above ground, so people did possibly have to like live underground for extended periods of time, and they evolved with like their environment, so possibly like lighter skin, deficient in like vitamin D or whatever, but like may have evolved like other kind of like benefits that that were, you know, for like that environment. And I'm going on all these tangents again, but this is where a lot of this stuff like goes, right? And there's a lot of like airports in different areas, weird ones with like sacred star forts, you know, and all that in the same area.
Did you see this one with the porn star living in underground tunnels in Vegas?
There you go.
So there's like tons of these examples of you know, cities essentially that are underground, that are, you know, under these cities. People are living there in the wintertime or all year round, and they're like, hey, like, let's do a documentary. So these Germans went and they were like, hey, Jenny Lee, she's famous, but she lives underground. Where was the, hold on, I don't want that picture. There was one that was like you could see her setup though, like where she was living underground, and it was like crazy. Here we go. Shit. So they got like this, you know, in this bunker kind of area with all of these drawers and everything, and people just, and she's like, yeah, I'm more comfortable down here. It's like better down here, you know, living in the city underground. So I mean, there's all of these, and this is like, there's New York, there's Minneapolis, there's Los Angeles, South America. There's been documentaries. People have found huge communities living underground, avoiding having to pay to live there. But then they also have to deal with whoever runs the community down there, and there's like an organization and everything. So I mean, there seems like this is happening, and then
it's not as much, like, because these areas, like, we don't have access to them, right? We have people that are government, you know, and they don't allow us to have access to these places. And even now, there's a lot of construction that has been going on since the pandemic to and all these signs in different areas, and like land mills now and dump sites that used to be parks, and like like monuments and stuff like that. Like they're trying to say that we don't have access to them, and they're putting out signs, road signs that they're renting to us, that we've paid off repeatedly over the years. And I can't even get started on the equipment that they don't maintain. And anyway, but it's all part of this stuff. Sorry, I'm so tired.
It's all right. Anybody wants to like bring up conspiracies or things that they thought, or that, you know, they believed as kids or something, you know, in Canada?
Flatter.
With us, man, I am real. Some of your guests are even commenting about it. We are very chummy with the World Economic Forum. So it's weird that we have a lot of like strange shit, man. That fucking weird German guy said that he had Trudeau in his pocket pretty much. And that's a weird thing to say about another country's leader.
Right. Well, it's not even just Justin Trudeau. Like leaders, like even Maxime Bernier, who is our PPC, People's Party of Canada. He's supposed to be like apparently like a white supremacist. He's not. He's like a really like a good guy, like from what I would gather. But like even he was part of like WEF in 2008. It doesn't mean really a lot right now. But even Pierre Poilievre, who's part of WEF, Chrystia Freeland, she's our deputy prime minister, tied to them as well, and Theresa Tam and Patty Hajdu, all these people, Justin Trudeau for sure. And it's this group that are part of like these Harari, Soros groups that are trying to make us believe that we're like that we're nothing, that we're insignificant, that like we're not divine or anything like that, and that we're just these physical beings that are, you know, like anyway, be controlled and like cattle, like they're so just ignorant on humans and hopeless.
The Theresa Tam stuff's funny. Theresa Tam. She I don't know if you could look this up. She had the internet claims that she has a alias where she's actually a man, and it's like a Chinese and it's a Chinese spy, and it's like, this is our health minister that tells us what to do. And if you just look at her background, she's got a very strange background, man. She's like, she comes from another country, and she's like just telling us all our health measures. And
she graduated and got her certification, and then she was directly from that to being on boards as as an expert at what, and there's no real records or accounts.
Yeah, can you see her past? Can you see her brother or something? See what her brother is.
But they even say that, like, even Michelle Obama, apparently they're saying it it used to be Michael, and I've seen photos too, apparently that look like similar. So you never know, right? Like, there's a lot of editing that can be done, and there's a lot of conspiracy theories about a lot of people right now. So I just don't know. But I've heard it, and there's a lot of memes on Signal and Telegram. They're hilarious.
That's funny, man.
I'm trying.
Yeah,
to
I don't know if
her brother.
I don't know if.
Oh,
I don't know if that's a conspiracy or not. Yeah, but they were.
Investigation counts as a conspiracy, I think. I mean,
but it's
yes, they're allowed to have Huawei and all these other Chinese things that we're not allowed to have, which probably brings Chinese equipment in cheaper. But also,
did you ever catch what happened to that whole Huawei stuff? Their CEOs got booked for espionage and shit like that. They were like arrested in Canada or some shit. And we had to have a thing because you guys gave them the boot, rightfully so. But I think you may have had it at one point.
So semi related. I thought it should have been a much bigger story. I believe it was the Bed Bath & Beyond CEO that like sold his shares and then like killed himself this year. Like,
right?
That seems like just the wildest shit ever. That just didn't make headlines. It's like, it happens sometimes.
It was out of the monolith, right? Didn't he jump out of like a crazy building? I forget.
Oh, I'm pretty sure
it was like out of this weird building. That one, right?
That's
how do you get out of that building? I just don't know. To jump out of the window, it's
like any bars on the windows, because like,
or was it no it was this building. I'm sorry, it was the Jenga tower. So even weirder. And he could probably he had a deck or something like that, but still Jenga tower.
Damn,
says a lot about your life.
Connecting to what Don was saying too. All these people that don't want us to believe in the soul. That's interesting because I'm starting to think that's like the most powerful thing you can do in the face of elite forces is just believe in the soul, because I think everything's kind of like directing us away from believing in the fantastic or believing in religiosity, I guess, to a certain degree, but also spirituality, because it's like no, you are not a node in the spiritual network. You are a node in this mechanical network, and we have to squeeze what we can out of you. And here, this is our indoctrination system. Do not deviate from it whatsoever.
Right. So, the way religion controls man's spirit, the way states control man's sexuality, kind of a thing.
Yeah, you can say that. But yeah, I think there are definite overlaps there. I think that's one of the most controlling forces is like I think we've been duped away from in a certain sense, our religiosity, but what was tied to religiosity is believing in the soul and believing in that sort of unique individuality. And I think that makes a very strong case for oligarchies, in the Western world in general.
I totally agree with you. And I was going to say this before too, because even in Canada, like even in the early 1800s here, when we first not first, but when we like recolonized, I guess, because I do believe this came in stages. But when we first more adapted or implemented like certain systems of governance and then media and then other systems and organizations, it was always in twos, and I found that interesting as well, right? So there's a left and right wing of the political party, which I believe is of the same bird. And whenever there's two, like we were saying before, if one wins, that you could tick off like 49% of the population, right? And if you make it seem like there's like very drastic differences, right, or even subtle ones that are of significance, like that's like your, like you can like let people go, right? And then even with like the blue and the red significance of those colors being used, and how even in Canada for some reason like our blue is conservative, and I believe blue is democratic, right? In the US. And then I believe it's Republican, right? Is red.
It depends on what you think. Things change like every 20 years, and
And And then for us, our liberal parties are red. But like, and so at the same time, and then we had like global media and then CTV media, right? This was like left and right wing media. And then we had like education systems that came in. It was all on it with the same families, tied back to like the same like groups that came in from different areas. And then when they expanded outwards, right, and they grew their families, they started changing their last names too, in like the early 18 and 1900s. And like some of these groups were Satanists too, and not good people, right? And they were like specifically hired and came here to do these like psyops like things here, and then like weaken us from the inside essentially. And so like even Satanists, like you're breaking up the family system. That's a great way of crippling people from the inside, and then removing like that sense of purpose or that divine like belief or whatever. That like these are very easy ways, right? And these guys were like tied to these groups. They were open about it too. Even these Freemasons, they said they were Freemasons, and they were trying to like implement these I don't know, these in place just to like make us like self-implode.
Yeah, like certain kind of trained rituals. I mean, also WP Gen Lighten for Truth 2 says, "Hey Andreas, I knew Trudum when I was 12 and he had me kicked out of my family reunion. I could tell you a story. Please do. Get in the Discord or type it here. We'll try to find it and read it."
Yeah, let's hear
but
about that.
If you put it in the Discord, then yeah, I'll find you and you can come tell the story on the show at some point if you also want, because that'd be kind of cool to hear that story.
So when the
Stefan,
Prime Minister of Japan got assassinated, I actually like that same day I was doing security for Justin Trudeau and the head of the Raptor.
Oh wow.
I
cut you out when they start talking about the security for Trudeau. I wonder why.
Gone, you're cutting out.
Yeah, we got that modern that internet censorship, man. It's live and direct.
Yeah.
Your camera
knows when to chop up.
You might have to try that again. You might have to log back out and in. Are you there? Is it working?
Oh,
hello?
I think you're back.
I just have to make sure.
Yeah, tell the story again. Try again.
Yeah, start over, please.
Are you sure you want me to? That was like the 2 times.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I was just gonna say there was a comms lockdown, and but I prepare for this stuff. I'm usually called in when there's.
What's a comms lockdown?
And sorry, did you say the head of the Raptors? Did you say the head of the Raptors?
Yeah.
Right. And who was that at the time?
Oh, I don't remember what his name is. It was just like a few months ago. Like I called him the.
No,
like,
okay, the coach or the
anyway,
VP?
I didn't call his real name. Like we have
The
code
VP
names.
or the head coach?
I don't personally care what their names are. Like no offense to them. Like they're just like someone I protect.
Never mind,
And I don't, you know what I mean. And so I really don't care. I didn't get a picture with him. He offered me backstage passes, stuff like that. He seemed like a really nice guy, by the way. I'm not slamming him. I just don't care, right? Like I don't swoon over celebrities. I don't care.
All right.
I don't even know where I was going with that. Oh yeah, and so there was a communication lockdown, right? So like people didn't have, they weren't able to text anyone or communicate on any means. But my phone was working because I have a way of like jamming that. And but anyway, and then I also had a lot of cash on me as well, and then I was able to like, anyways. But even then, like even his, no, I won't get into it. But so I know Justin Trudeau as well. Like I've been in his area, but I've never had the opportunity to even discuss any of the stuff that I'd like to discuss because it's just not going to go anywhere, right? Like you not only have to have the opportunity.
Can you imagine talking to Justin Trudeau about chemtrails? Be like, it's an environmental issue, Justin. Like, how would you begin? I don't know.
Yeah, you don't, because it goes nowhere, right? And then it doesn't look professional, obviously, right? Because
when you put on blackface, do you feel for the black man when you put on the blackface? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't even.
Oh, did you guys cover the Castro thing? Trudeau being Castro's son. That's a classic. That's a great.
It's always worth looking at.
I asked you guys about that.
I always like to just
because there's a lot of pictures of them holding hands, like Margaret. Is that what her name is?
But only like years later. It was only a few years after his birth.
Yeah, I like the backstory, Mom. I like the backstory. His mom being all out on the town.
Yeah, he's banging with the best, man. Banging with Jagger and all sorts of stuff, man. The Stones would come to town.
Yeah,
or whatever.
There's some likeness there.
But,
I mean,
this
right?
is stuff that's not
look up the picture of what's
a lot of guys are doing too.
Look at which
like
what?
Even Brooklyn. Oh, I shouldn't say that.
Go down. How come it's not coming up?
I took your wife. Yeah. I don't know, bro. I mean, but that's kind of like all that does is like kind of make you seem
right. To the right of the one that you just clicked. The right of the one you just clicked.
Right.
Nope.
Yeah. The youthful
Yeah,
one's
there
good.
you go. There you go. Look at that.
I'm pretty sure
do
they
have a
photoshopped
similar
his,
nose.
I see it. I mean, it is kind of a thing, but it is what it is. It's all this does is make him seem cooler. Because the thing is, this guy doesn't seem as cool. Like Pierre Trudeau.
Right, that guy looks. Yeah, he looks like a standing clown sideshow.
So it makes Trudeau seem cooler. You're like, well, maybe he's got it in him. Maybe if he's got some Castro in him, maybe he's got it in him to actually. Because you guys, the problem is Canada going for the nice guy thing. You got to go for the mean guy thing, right? What's his name? Mr. Wonderful? Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank. This guy should have been president of Canada if that's how you do it, right? Because he's just a jerk.
Wait, you guys call him Mr. Wonderful?
Isn't that what he calls himself? I don't even know.
Nah, man, we have a different name for him up here.
That's what he calls himself on.
Yeah, because we don't. What's our thing called? It's not called Shark Tank, is it?
I don't know.
Dragon's Den.
Our Dragon's Den. Ours is called Dragon's Den. He was originally on that, and then you guys took the show and called it Shark Tank.
We do so much of this like television thievery. It's amazing.
It's very
interesting,
man. Yeah.
Canadian venture capitalist. This seems like way interesting. Oh my god, what the heck is going on?
I think it was the original. I think that's where it started.
Is there a British version before it? Dragon's Den. Let's see, wiki. Let's see if the English came up with this first. First version to air outside of Japan was the British program Dragon's Den, which launched in 2005. Okay, so Japan first. Dragon's Den started in Japan.
Okay, 2001 first aired. When did we get airing?
I was gonna say there's probably an Asian.
Money Tigers started first. Money Tigers.
Money.
This is out of control. What? What is this?
That's so funny, man. And they never actually pay them. I knew people that got deals on that show, and they don't follow through. They don't have to follow through. It's hilarious.
That's hilarious.
It's really just television.
Oh my god.
That's insane.
They go, we'll give you $100 grand for 10% of your company, and then after the show, they're like, nah, we don't want to do it.
Nah,
but it was good television.
But it was a great episode.
God, that's crazy. So the whole thing, though, it seems. Do they do it ever? Like, it seems like it's a great way to poach things. You can poach technology, or you can publicize it, or something.
That's what that stuff always feels like to me, man. Pitch meetings feel that way. Anytime when people are like, "Yeah, give us your idea," it just seems like you're taking my idea.
It's kind of like American Idol, where like 99% of the contestants never make any money ever. And they can't even start making money till like an entire year if they do get like in the top like 3. And it's like really they're all just getting the wool like pulled over. They're getting well, not that, they're getting sheared the entire time. And it's just like, oh, we got the entertainment. Here's your little like 10 minutes of fame, and they get absolutely doggy do for getting.
And then Kurt, they have to wait for that fame, that American Idol fame, to wear off before they could actually start doing something decent. And by then it's like
being controlled by a record label.
Yeah, exactly. And then by then it's usually too late. I mean, Clay Aiken, he got cut pretty quick out of the limelight. What was it, Ruben?
Look at that photo.
Yeah, man, Chris Dawson.
Your face, man.
Yeah, when I don't know if you guys ever heard of the term butt rock. But like, yeah. Like,
what really? Butt rock is
tell me
like
about butt rock.
Like no, that's Venice Beach music.
When I thought of
is that like a crazy sex?
Oh, ever been to Butt Rock? Yeah, up there in Butt Rock. That's where they curse the Indians. I don't know. That's not what you meant.
Yeah, that's
Marjorie Taylor Greene on American Idol. Is that her name? That the Republican representative that might be the new House of Commons representative.
Yeah. I don't think she was on American Idol. Was she? No, she was like. I've met her before. Pretty sure I would have remembered that. I don't know.
She was like down like that.
Maybe she auditioned. She auditioned for American Idol. Maybe.
Oh, there's an article.
Yeah, so she auditioned for American Idol. Okay. Well, that's fair. I can believe that she would have auditioned for American Idol.
It was many years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, this is totally believable. I can totally buy this, that she would have done this. And no disrespect to Marjorie Taylor Greene either.
No, not at all. No.
I mean, I love that her name, MTG, is Magic the Gathering, essentially. Like, Like that's a good
I've
sign.
been on Naked and Afraid on Discovery Channel, so I can't like I'm not judging.
Really? You were on Naked and Afraid?
Yeah.
What?
And,
I didn't even think.
What
On
the
Which
hell
one
is
was that? Which one was that? How long do you have to be in the woods for?
30 days, right?
And so that's why, like, this volcano stuff too is like really
What?
interesting to me. 2/3 of the island, I was like, are they gonna like explode this with me on this freaking island? It was called Ashes to Ashes, and my name is Dawn. I was like, they're gonna kill me. They're gonna freaking... I'm like, it's okay though. It's a fine way to go. It's a nice place. Like I was like above ground and stuff like that. And
So you
like,
were
I know the
afraid.
players.
You were afraid, but were you naked?
I'm like afraid to look up pictures,
I was
right?
naked.
'Cause, like,
But I wasn't afraid of being naked though. But like I made a dress out of my
strict
myself.
searching right here. We're doing the strict searches. There we go. That's amazing. How did this go? What? I didn't even know you did this. How long did this last? Did you do it? Did you survive? Did you quit? Did you not die?
Yeah, well, it was
You
just
didn't die, Don. Tell me you didn't die.
No, I didn't die. No, I did it like right after I released out of the Canadian Armed Forces, and like I was burnt out, right? And so like I wanted to do this show because like I wanted to do it with like someone else, right? And have like an experience with someone, because I was very like always being like the female officer. I was always very like I didn't have that connection, right? And so I wanted to do that in a primitive area. And my partner unfortunately like got injured with the first three or 4 days. And so like after like 7 days, I lasted 10 days, but I could have stayed longer.
It was all up to you, yeah. Right.
Yeah, but I was like, I was just like I was trying, I was an alcoholic at the time and I had stopped drinking and stuff like that. So I was also going through withdrawals at the time. So it wasn't a great time. So
Could you find food? How did you find food?
Oh yeah, plenty of food. So like I was finding it, like even when I got to the island, like even my partner, like the infill in was like over a 2-day period, and I let us like in, and that was real. And we were like going over like jagged rocks and stuff, but I had prepared my feet for weeks, and I toughened them up on the terrain here, and I walk bare feet all the time anyways. And so like, that was good. And when we were walking through, I was like foraging. So I was already picking up coconuts. I was picking up mangoes and guavas, and like I was giving it to my partner too. And he even actually got injured on the way in, and then I was able to help him with that.
Did you get to pick your partner, or they just assigned it to you?
They just assigned, and it is legit though. You do legit only meet them like right when you get there, right?
Wow.
But,
how long did you do the Canadian military for?
I was in for 15 years, but now like as soon as I got out, I went out and I became incorporated, and like now since then I've been like a high level security analyst. I've done like a lot of security work for like Global Affairs Canada, for example, and like our military. Or I work with special forces still, like international like contacts and covert, and even like covert people in law enforcement. And
how do you do that job? Do you not like? How do you trust anyone? I would not trust anyone if I worked there. I would assume everybody's trying to.
Right.
Yeah,
that's a weird gig.
It is, right? And I do have like advanced interview interrogation technique courses and conduct after capture courses and immersive surveillance acquisition training. And I have my own trauma experiences where I know how to like even look at microaggressions and see threats and stuff. And so I'm better at seeing like if I can like trust someone or not than most. But in my day, I don't trust anyone, right? Even driving down the street, I could be like taken off a road, right? So even a year and a half ago, I don't know if this was an accident or not, but like someone did intentionally get into my lane as I was going to pass. It was very obvious and didn't like merge out. And I was like literally going through pylons or posts, like on a meridian, and then finally getting back in the lane when it was obvious. And then I give him like this, and he was like, sorry. And I'm like, oh, go away. And I just went off another exit, right? And I went
but
home.
that's on the road. What about like, how do you even have superiors when you're able to see people's body language to such a high degree? Like when you know.
Yeah, I don't feel like I have superiors. Like I don't feel like, I think we're all like divine beings. I feel like we're all on like equal like field. I do volunteer work at the Ottawa Mission too, and I have done that for years. And there's a lot of homeless people too that are very educated. They're coming here from other countries. They have multiple like degrees in multiple like languages, and they're being like oppressed here, especially through the pandemic. And they're so brilliant. And then I talk with teachers and experts, and they're idiots. They're idiots. It's like so frustrating, right? And,
that's definitely an American problem too. I got so like I
work with Americans too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I did
an exchange with West Point.
United Statesians. Because of my occupation, like I got into an argument like with a lawyer online, and you could tell he was just kind of being an arrogant prick about the whole situation. And I was like, "Oh, you hit me with this non sequitur," and he was like, "Oh shit, I actually have to argue now." and it's weird because a lot of people are just like, our education system is definitely just built to indoctrinate people, and I use that word so often and so loosely, but you can tell it's like, why do all these doctors go through all this training just to be one of the highest, just to have one of the highest rates of suicide? I think it's because, a lot of people realize real deep into it, like, wow, like, yeah, I learned some shit, but like the proportion of the money I spent to the things that I've learned, I feel sheared now. And now if I go back, I have all this debt, and I either have this debt and I pay it off by working 70 to 80 hours a week, and I don't have a life outside of that. It's like you literally, it's easy to see yourself through the lens of slavery. Yeah.
Indentured servitude for sure.
Oh yeah.
Medical malpractice is like the third leading cause of death in Canada and the US, is it not? So like that might wear on them as well, right? Where there's like medical malpractice, like, there might be a lot of people that take that on and feel responsible for that, and there could be that as well, where we, generally speaking, usually also feel worse about what we've done to other people than what has been done to us.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was going to springboard, and I know this is unrelated, but I was like, what is your favorite interrogation technique? What do you think?
Right?
Yeah. Oh, specifically, that was a question directed for Dawn. I was like, yeah.
All right. I mean, I'm just going to pull up the Guantanamo Bay playlist while you do that,
I mean, I don't really have like any, like, I don't manipulate people. I don't deceive people. I don't lie. Like, I'm just very observant, honestly. And so, like, I feel
that sounds like a bad spy, though. Like, if you're working in the spy department and you're like, I'm not going to tell any lies.
I'm not a spy.
Like, look,
this sounds like part of your technique. You
That's a whole different industry,
right?
Of your honesty. You're very convincing in these lies that you're telling, I must say.
I just feel like I want to be of service to Canadians, right? Like I'm still in the government industry, right? It's something that I've done for 20 plus years of my life, and I'm really, I know what's coming ahead, and so even for like the last 2 or 3 years, like in the community, I'm giving. I've been saying what's like down the pipe, and like what we should be doing about it at all levels. I don't know, like even with the Freedom Convoy, like I called that before it came, with what went on with Russia, Ukraine. Like I had these whiteboards, I shared it, so there's proof. But I'm trying to be helpful, and it's just that what I'm saying, like even things like I'm saying about like how I believe that like space, as we're being told, is not correct in the school systems, and like even the like the globe versus flat Earth model stuff that I won't say too much about, but I'm on the side that's like not the majority right now, but used to be the majority like a couple hundred years ago, before the scientific de-evolution. And so these are all really hard to get through to people, because they think that I'm insane, right? So even when I say that like certain events happened and that they were planned and staged at like the higher levels, they're like, no, that's crazy. And I'm just like, but it's not. And then I'm giving all the proof, they're just not looking at it, right? So it's like, I'm not a spy, I'm just around people that refuse to look at the freaking information that I give them like daily, daily. Cabinet MPs daily, science, medical, government data. I'm a top secret government. Like, do you even know what a VPN is? My doctor didn't even know what a VPN was. I'm like, do you ever connect out of different countries even? No. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't even talk to you right now. I'm like, I can't even talk to you. People in Canada think we're not censored. They think we're not censored. I'm like, how do you? Why?
You're
definitely censored.
You are too fast for the internet. The bandwidth can't keep up.
I had a conversation with Andreas earlier this year, and we talked about a French town getting ergot poisoning. Right. And then literally, I believe it was Jordan connecting. He didn't connect that later. It was a totally different episode, but he was like, oh yeah, remember that time in the 1950s where the CIA dumped LSD on everybody in that town? And I was like, what? Because that ergot.
Oh, I thought you didn't know that thing with the CIA in the French town?
No, that's the thing that we were talking about, though.
I thought you knew that. So I went into that assuming that was like a big, like everybody knows this, right? The CIA experimented on bakeries and drugged this entire town, and hundreds of people died because they didn't know what was going on. It was we were connecting it to the dancing plague, and the dancing plague happened in the 15th century, where there was ergot poisoning and there was mass hysteria from psychedelics. And so I thought your point was that the 15th century Catholic ergot poisoning was perhaps intentional. I thought that's what you were getting at. So
I mean, anything's possible. Anything's possible. And I love ideas like that. At the time, I was just purely curious. I was like,
French village. I've been to this village too, and so it's crazy. Like if you go through Saumur and all these places where they have their own like cute little wineries and stuff, these are like decent people. Like one of my friend Jeff, his family are just like, you know, his mother makes like pressed cold nut hazelnut oils for like the country market or something like that. So it's even just to imagine what that's like now in the 20s. Imagine what it was like 70 years ago in 1953 when they just literally like dosed an entire town. And yeah, literally like 100 people died because they dosed like old people, children. It was the entire community. Men and women were just like, what the heck? The cursed incident.
Possibly done this like throughout like multiple different countries.
But not being caught every time, not every single time. No.
Possibly like there's possible like other events that have happened where there's been like even in Lake Miramichi, like this summer, like I shared this, like there's actual government people like full NBC suits covered up in Lake Miramichi in New Brunswick, poisoning the actual water systems. And then we had like one of our guys go out and actually recording this, and luckily he was recording it. There was even a wildlife preservation officer there watching this, and the guy was like, "Billy, not you too!" Like, and he's like,
"What? This is not news all over Canada. This is the biggest story I think I've heard in a while. Group 2 intentionally.
I never. I get my YouTube accounts deleted.
I'm trying to imagine how many people would die like if everybody just was on DMT at the same time. Like I just the chaos that I'm envisioning is just like there's a definable portion of the population that could not jump into that experience and like handle it, you know. Like I think you have to have a certain like base level of openness before you can even be introduced to those experiences. And imagining some people that just do not have any sort of framework of it whatsoever, just being introduced to that like involuntarily. It's that. It's.
Have you seen that movie Wild in the Streets from 1968?
No.
This movie is so based. It is the ultimately most based movie. You got to see it. It's about 1968 when the baby boomers were young. And so the idea is there was a 52% of the population, 52%. And they're going to say 14 or fight. As in not 35, not 18, because the voting age is 21 at this point. They're like, why bring it to 18? Bring it to 14. So they push the country into 14. They make everybody underage. It's like a Children of the Corn with LSD kind of thing. They put everybody over 35 in LSD camps. It's the best movie. Yeah. Huh. But like you could force a bunch of people to adapt, and then when whomever didn't adapt, you just like let fall by the wayside. The thing is, you wouldn't want everyone to know that happened necessarily. I think that's the thing. At least for 20 years, like we didn't know about like. So imagine you're in this French village, and you don't know you've been dosed. Your whole family, the whole world went through this crazy thing, and they don't know about it for 30, 40 years. It's like 1994, 40 years later that they find out. Right? That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and I think that there might be implications on our experience of memory. Like when wild shit happens, I don't think we have a tangible grasp on reality in general. And I mean that specifically. I think that does overlap with certain religious conceptions, especially Eastern traditions in terms of our relation to reality. So, but we do have a relationship to the dream world. A lot of times it's hard to have awareness that you're dreaming. Lucid dreaming is such a rare thing in general because it's hard to have that sense of awareness. And I think our tangible grasp to everyday reality is a little bit similar. So everybody could theoretically be dosed with LSD at the same time, and then just a few days later, like, oh, that was just, it didn't really happen. Like, I guess I'd settle.
Right, mass hysteria, we all let it go. Yeah, it's a day of forgetfulness. That might be a thing.
I think we're kind of pre-wired to interpret things that way, and we interpret things both symbolically and referentially, and we don't. It's I think that's the major weakness of living in such a scientifically biased culture, is because we like to believe in science. We like to believe that we have a literal interpretation of things, but if we don't have that ability, even in our DNA structure, it causes a lot of problems. It makes us assume things that we don't we can't actually assume, and that leads to bad science. It leads to a whole shit ton of other structural problems in society. And there's so many there's so many tangents you can go down throughout that, I guess, idea set. But yeah, it's wild shit to think about.
I kind of hope we get back to that point, though. That seems a little more exciting than the point we've reached of like science as the total belief system. Like the last 2 years seem like it put, science got the say in everything.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind going back to a time where you're like, we got to go vampire hunting and fucking shooting werewolves and stuff like that.
Bro, I'll take you to
Rather
Santa
get back
Cruz.
to that.
I gotta take you to my hometown very soon.
Yeah, man. Let's
You'll
get some
regret you wished
vampires.
that.
Yeah.
There's been mass hysteria events throughout the years as well. Like even like hundreds of years ago, they were saying that like there was like some kind of like I don't know, like gas or something like in the air that caused people to have like these hallucinogenic experiences. And so who knows? Like maybe even like our own like air has been like poisoned before or drugged before, and that's possibly what caused these.
Well,
like these like
we also have
populations to have these
experiences.
We
have psychedelics in our brain already, and I'm not sure. We know so little about the brain, and we know so little about sleep. Even in like with all this psychological research that we're doing, we just know jack shit basically about what the full function of sleep is. It's hard to really dig into the brain and see what's going on biologically from everything that I've learned. And so the fact that we know that we have chemicals that can induce hallucinogenic experiences in our brains, what are the triggers that potentially could exist in our surrounding world that we aren't aware of? What could trigger those experiences? I think there might be.
I mean, we already have that though. We have the mushroom, we have the cactus that gives us peyote. We have the ayahuasca. So even the older cultures, like the ancient cultures, they've been more tapped into the way this dream works, I think, better than any scientist in the last 100 years. And I think it was through those things. They weren't chopping people's heads open and poking at people's brains. They were just, take a handful of mushrooms and see what happens.
Yeah,
they were integrated in a certain way. And I love.
Do you know who Alexander Shulgin is?
I do not.
Alexander Shulgin, if you're going to say like there's one scientist to spare Sodom and Gomorrah, it would have been Alexander Shulgin. He is kind of thought of as like the inventor of ecstasy, even though he's not because that was some German guy. He just figured out dosages and figured you can't just give this to rats or monkeys or teenagers at festivals yet. You need to like try them yourself if you're a chemist. So him and his wife, and he started out like 15, was in a naval submarine in World War II, memorized the chemistry book by the time he got out. And then he was working for DuPont making pesticides. And they're like, this is the one that really works. They put right on the box. And they're like, what do you want to do next, kid? And he's like, well, I think that this is the 50s. I think that we have really terrible antidepressants. If we were to just, if I were to isolate a non-psychoactive molecule from the mescaline cactus, I bet you I could make tremendous, better psychopharmaceutical medication for antidepressants. And they're like, go, shut up, kid, go, take our money. And that's how a lot of the psychedelics were invented. He invented thousands and thousands of different chemicals, and they were all, the testing thing. He knew the right people. That ended up in the hands of like Augustus Stanley Owsley the Bear, and the Hells Angels. STP was DMT. I'm sorry, what was it? DOC, right? No, DOM. 2-5-dimethoxy-4 methylphenylphalamin, not chlorophenylphalamin. This is, what I mean? So chemists around the world clearly love him, and he's an important guy who kind of worked on neuropharmacology, but also he said that there's a thing, and it's kind of the theory of Shulgin's key, where we have these drugs in our heads, we can access them, but you shouldn't eat someone's brain or anything. What you can do instead is why is it that we can't access them without these medicines, right? Or are these really plants in nature? And the answer probably is their keys.
No, I think theoretically, where I was going was with that statement was I think there might, I mean, it could be chemical reactions, but beyond just, I guess, chemical reactions in the traditional way that we think of them, in these cases of mass hysteria, there might have been an unknown trigger that actually allowed us to access those chemicals in our own brains without necessarily having much of a chemical input from an outside source. I can't verify that.
But you think, what do you mean? Like elaborate, like a vibe? You think it's just a good vibe of energy? Like people...
No.
Well,
so
man,
mushrooms, these are old, like there's been old, even in the Christian religion, actually, even Jesus apparently, like with like halos, like or there's mushrooms that are in like a lot of the old like hieroglyphs or what do you want to call it?
The Super Mario mushroom.
Jesus.
It's the original Super Mario mushroom.
Santa Claus, there's like this hidden symbology.
Look at that face he's making too. He's like, "You're not gonna like it." You're gonna need
the amaretto mushrooms, and then with the urine, like, and then people just in the urine, and, like having experiences with that as well. So there's like old, like people, like old, like traditions and old, like civilizations, even Christians, right? Where there's like psilocybin mushrooms.
Jesuit mushroom users, right?
Where there's like these like vents, like underneath. Like this is where also people used to go to these possible like places and have these experiences where like underground there could have been like these like gases or like, I don't know, like hallucinogenic drugs that would be in what we're calling churches now or other things, and then people would like go there and mass congregate and have these experiences and namaste and and then go back. But
yeah, also to answer that, man, if you read up on the monks and stuff that live in the mountains and the Buddhists and all that, those guys, they tell you you could access those parts in your brain, those psychedelic trips naturally with meditating, doing chants and hums and like a lot of acoustic stuff that will shake your brain into those frequencies. Right. But it's just hard for us to do because we're so dumbed down with all this other stuff, all these other electronics around us, and
we're disconnected.
Shit that just very much
Kevin,
so. Yeah,
I love when he pulled up the photo. You're like, yeah, there you go. That's how you do it.
Yeah, I mean I've done that twice.
That's
maybe
it right there.
It's a good time.
Yeah, I mean,
time.
I've done some yoga, Kundalini yoga breathing that's made me seem like rainbows. You know, all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So you can get to a place.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It's a real thing.
The full color palette, right? That's even out there with what we can experience and see. Like we are energetic, like light particle beings, right? Like that's having this like multidimensional, like simulated experience. But yeah, like we cannot perceive, like we cannot begin to perceive like what's around us, like with this limited view that we have.
Okay, this seems like a perfect springboard into Crowley. If you want to go back to talking about Crowley,
sure, you could do it, I guess.
Oh, I was just saying earlier about like I was saying like it wasn't 1888 where he created the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn or something like that. But he also has again like occultists like also use astrology and constellations and like a lot of sun worship in their what they do, right? Like even the Freemasons, like they are like a lot of them are like sun worshipers.
Speaking it's pretty important. It's pretty important to worship the sun, otherwise you end up looking British.
So, I've been kind of toning that direction recently.
I want to read Golden Dawn.
Speaking of sun worship,
we do as well. But even they're not like in symbology for like sun worship within the.
But that's Saturn, though. You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
I don't know.
So speaking of sun worship. I'm a huge fan of turtles, and I read the other day that the turtle is the original sun worshiper.
From what? Where is that? You have a link somewhere or what?
What do you mean? What do you mean from what?
You know, turtles have like 13 like sections on their shell, and then it's 28 or whatever like that, like around, like those like little things around. And I believe that there's 13 months in a year because there's 13 lunar cycles depending on when it starts in the year and a lot of solar cycles. And
I was just talking about that today. If you do 13 months at 28 days, which is the moon cycle, you end up with 300. Yeah, you end up with 364 days,
and then
which is like you're right at the
Accordingly, today is
leap year.
Here's the Mayan calendar. I only use the Mayan calendar really, and so the red galactic Earth is today, and so today is I harmonize in order to evolve, modeling synchronicity. I seal the matrix of navigation with the galactic tone of integrity. I'm guided by the power of birth. But what it means is, see, you've got at the center here navigation. Here's wind, I think this is I can't remember if this is sun or seed. This might be seed, but you get a spiral that it forms around the day that's forming, and then that's a star root. And each value of the 20 tones for the 13 moons, and then there's a month with a day at a time. So there's like 5 or 6 days at the end to fill in the human gestation period, and then it cycles again. And so you have a 20 months of 20 days of 20-month year sets into the back tune. And so that's why it says it's the 10th 012, but it's really the 13th, because when you hit 13, their wheel would have restarted, but it doesn't mean it's really the end of it necessarily. So it makes sense to use the Mayan calendar, I think, for that reason alone, the 13 moon cycle. It's weird how August, September are on the wrong months as well, too.
And then there's even like people that believe that the like our year starts at a different time, or people that actually do follow like a different
yeah, that makes sense. It would start in the springtime.
Yeah, or spring.
Yeah, why would you assume all the crop dies, everything dies? Why would you go it's a new year in the dead of the winter? That's a
and
weird...
that's why. So if it started like in like April 1st or whatever, or whatever, then like September would make more sense, being like the 7th month.
Right, September for Septa, which is 7. It's in the name, still the 9th month, 7th month. Right.
Wow.
But there's a whole...
You have comments here. These guys are also... You can make yourself trip if you stare at a wall long enough without blinking.
That's a good
I've
comment.
heard of that, too. I've heard people say that.
Anybody sees any comments that roll by, feel free. I saw... so we're just talking about Sinclair and Milo appears. I don't know if that was, but yeah, I missed some of the context. If you guys see lucid dreaming, military traffic now, theoretics was never meant to become actuality. If you see anything good, let me know. The other one is that noon is 9. So not even the time of the day is correct, because it used to be the 9th hour was noon. And so this had a lot to do with, midnight and noon being the centric point all of a sudden for sun worshiping, but also for Saturn worshiping, as opposed to dawn and dusk being the changeover, which would have been key, because you would have been kind of a natural rhythm. You're like, oh yeah, it's about 12, it's dawn, time to get up. Otherwise you're like, oh man, it's really late now. I should go to bed,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's like a lot too, like sun bathing and moon bathing, and people doing certain rituals during like full moon ceremonies, or like 7 days, like during new moons, and then like possibly being like self-illuminating luminaries, like both like the sun and the moon being projected into this possible dome or firmament from like other areas, possibly closer to the center of the earth, like the Pisces yin and yang kind of like rotation. I don't know if you could put the yin and yang symbol up, but that could be like what is possibly what the sun and moon and rotation is, and then a possible black sun or whatever that's hidden.
Yeah, I could see that. The sun and the moon, that makes sense. That's like the light trail that the sun leaves behind.
They say is cooler, right? So like you can actually it was supposed to be dark and shade, like there's temperatures like even like varying like by 8 degrees just by moonlight, right? So it would lead me to believe that it's self-illuminating, and that it's not like being reflected from the sun, like and getting the heat, right? Because when I've done my own experiments reflecting pyramids and other things, or even magnifying glasses, I'm reflecting, and there's heat coming, right? And
show again. Sorry.
Oh, this is just my magnifying glass.
Oh, okay.
But even if this is a dome, for example, there's a lot of forest fires in different areas. Like, what's to say that there's not some kind of like, it's not being like magnified in certain areas that are like really dry, and then causing these freaking forest fires, because they always give us these names and a person smoking. I'm sorry, I've smoked a lot of joints in the last 3 years since like this pandemic stuff, and I've been all over the woods, and not even once have I even like had like even like a little bit of and I light fires all the time. I'm a primitive survivalist. Like, you have to put a lot of work into getting fire going. Like
California fires started. Crazy person. I wish I could find the article. So one of the things they caught these people that were saying that the earthquakes were there because there hadn't been enough blood spilt, and they needed to meth heads living in the woods, like they were trying to start fires intentionally, and had started fires in Santa Cruz and in a number of areas. So there always are these like crazy people, but it's also, that feels very MK Ultra too. These people are like, oh, I have to start a fire. Who told them that they had to start a fire? Where's that voice in your head coming from?
The pictures of them but even like with the can I talk about like the Apollo 11?
Yeah, why not? Sure.
11, is that the Tom Hanks movie one?
No,
Yep.
but with no, what was the event where all the astronauts apparently like they died, but then like they were all
Oh, the Columbia shuttle, yeah,
and
Columbia.
then like, they're all working and like able-bodied people like, oh no, we're twins. Oh really? But like there's no records of any of your schools you guys went to, the other twins, like no birth certificates, none of this stuff. Like you're all liars. I'm sorry, I'm doing it again, but
Well, yeah, I mean, who's to say what's real? Because some of these guys do look different. But here are the pictures. It's one of those things, and Alex Jones, shame on you. And we're just pointing out how crazy this is that people would
Shame on
put
you.
this
Shame on
picture
you.
out
Shame
here.
on you.
I just want to show you how crazy this is that anyone would think this would be it's obviously impossible that these astronauts who clearly died in this horrific, tragic way that we really respect and we care about, obviously. I'm not saying anything otherwise, but here are these pictures that this is what the crazies are doing. They're putting it on the internet, guys. What do you want me to do? Don't delete me from YouTube, please. But yeah, this is the one, and this is the one that I was always like, oh, come on, right? Sharon A. She's the same name. Looks kind of similar, same name. You know what? There's a lot of Scottish women in America and Canada that look kind of similar. Who's to say?
That's very true.
It's true.
Yeah. Right?
I'll say on the internet, anything's possible. It could always be a fake photo, and it could always be dead serious.
Yeah, that's true.
I have seen a lot of good like deep fakes, honestly, like videos and pictures, like now even on Signal and Telegram, because in my line of work too, like because I've been to war, I've seen that experience, and I've also done like the role playing stuff here, like even in training scenarios where I'm hiring a lot of different people and elements, and I don't even know where I was going with that.
Earlier though,
how different is the battleground compared to Call of Duty? Is it very different or is it very accurate?
So I've never played Call of Duty, but I did play Jeopardy when I was a teenager. So like I memorized
Jeopardy.
Jeopardy seems different than Call of Duty.
Kevin, Jeopardy.
Yeah.
I haven't even played Call of Duty that much, and I still think it's different than Jeopardy.
I was raised in the country mostly, and like having the city, but like I was always hunting or out foraging or fishing. Like I really wasn't into like video games as much as like on my own, like or reading a lot of books.
Jeopardy is cool.
Like I was a nerd.
It's supposed to be a simulation of what do you call paramilitary soldiers or actual soldiers, but it's like Blackwater kind of guys.
Yeah,
right?
I know a lot of guys that play it.
Yeah.
But I mean, but yeah, like I've done like a lot of training too, because like I did 15 years as an infantry officer. Like there's like a lot of urban ops training that you do, a lot of like close protection stuff. Even now, I'm a use of force instructor where I do like handcuff and baton training to like all levels of law enforcement and stuff like that as well. And so like there's a lot of like going into buildings and like a lot of like clearances and like different types of operations and patrols that you do. And so and then also on my own time, I love camping and hiking, and so. I'm sort of doing it, right? But like I'm more like not like out doing what they're doing, right? Like needlessly harming people in the game. Like I was more of like doing.
The Russians missed the mission in Call of Duty. The Russians mission, you don't have to kill anybody. That's like a big deal. I remember that being important about Call of Duty. Yeah. Of course, it's the Russians. But okay, what about cold light, though? I was going to ask, because you talk about yin yang and this idea that the sun and the moon are equivalent. And that's a big thing, like in one way or the other. Either it's amazing that something that's 400 times the size of something else would be so differently distanced that they would be the same size in an optical illusion, so that God's messing with you. Or that you're living in a flat earth and that these things are the same size and they're really a lot closer, and that you've been lied to by science and telling you don't trust your eyes. One way or the other, that's a great story. So. But the other thing is
like fighting to the death to say like like the sun and the moon are like in space and stuff like that and not within a dome. I'm like, oh yeah, well how far away is the sun from the moon? They don't even freaking know. I'm like, okay, cool, because I know. Well, I mean, there's like different versions and very like 93 million light years away or whatever it is, and like the sun being or the moon being closer. But like to me, I'm being led to believe when I look at it that they're approximately the same size, or wherever they're being reflected from. It's like it's showing the same size. And even when you look at the moon, if you go back, it looks like it's like the Earth, what we're being shown from images from NASA, what our Earth looks like.
Your sound is cut out, Don.
X-ray.
Yeah, try it again. The last bit.
Oh, it looks like an X-ray of Earth, or like a reflection or projection of Earth.
They all seem kind of similar. Sun, moon, same
like the continent shapes and stuff like that, where you got like the lost world, like being like covered over a bit, or whatever you want to call it. But
I was just seeing this. Sun, moon, same size. Where was that? I just saw a picture earlier that was pretty good. That was showing the Mount Vesuvius, and then the major coronal spot on the moon or on the sun, and then one of the major craters on the moon, in all the same place, because there's a number of proportional similarities that are in terms of the geography of these things.
We've edited out now.
Man,
but yeah, like
the other dead
Sorry.
the other dead giveaway with the moon is how much it affects the tide. That's something that I find it's going to be hard to convince me, especially now that there's nobody that's like living on this planet that has been to the moon. If the last guy died, there's no one that's going to be able to convince me that thing's so far away past the Van Allen radiation belt, and it just pulls and controls the tide. And man, I've been to the ocean when the moon is full, and the water feels different. You feel a different energy. That's not that to me. That's not something that's like fucking some infinite miles away that I got to take a rocket ship to.
No, I was from the Gaspé Sea is a peninsula, and even like I was just there again just a few weeks ago to do like my exams away from construction. And when I look at it, like it's like the sun and the moon, they absolutely impact like the water levels and the waves, and even it's very clear to me too, and that they're I absolutely agree. And water seeks level, and there's so many other things.
There's the thing I'm trying to find. Is there? Oh no, wait. Moon atmosphere.
Like we never see, and I've even shown like where like the sun and the moon are like the moon is not possible where it's supposed to be. Like I'm seeing it in plain daylight, right? Like in all hours of the day, in areas that it shouldn't be, and it just doesn't make sense. And I just wish that I don't know like. That
European Space Agency released this document, and NASA had one too, and a bunch of people. I remember in school we talked about this, and then they finally just admitted it to everybody that the Earth's atmosphere stretches out to beyond the moon. So just reckon with that 2 and 2 equals 4 sometimes, and go back to sleep kind of thing. But they've already kind of put it out into the public, this idea that the whatever we are calling our atmosphere, the moon is within that, right?
Yeah, they keep on, and there's even they're slowly phasing out the old narrative and like bringing in the new one, right? There's even people like I'm seeing that are saying that we haven't left the Van Allen belt, for example. Like it's like small TV, like the channels I go on. It's usually like low level stuff, like just like that I'm interested in, like no one else in the world is, right? And so like even this live stream stuff, I'm like, well, NASA, you're lying.
How are you supposed to so this is the thing that gets me is like, first off, rockets are really loud. So from my understanding of sound and even just being in front of the rocket, it's going to take a while before you're going fast enough before that won't matter. So it seems like you would go deaf from the rocket. And then beyond that, the radiation belt, you've got the Van Allen belt, plus you have the nuclear fallout from every nuke we've ever dropped that's been pushed up into the Van Allen belt. So you're going through this like microwave, so I just wonder.
Like, this was like, there was another interview that was being done by astronauts that had like gone to the moon. And they're like, the guy's like, oh, what about the Van Allen belt? And he's just like, oh, it wasn't invented yet. Like, what? Are people believing this stuff? Like, oh, okay. No, I don't care. Why are people believing this? The Van Allen belt is a radiation thing?
Well, there was that, where's that article? Nuclear belt, man-made nuclear. Where is that at?
The guy was like, because like now they're saying that we have to factor in like, right, like the Van Allen belt and the radiation, stuff like that. Before they didn't, and the gravity, the G-force, right? When you're going in rockets, like you feel that when you go through like even like 3 G's of gravity, that's like 3 times or 5 times like your body weight, right? That you're going through and experiencing. And when they're going through these rockets, like at Mach like 20 million, and they're like talking and like things are going up in the air, you know what I mean? It's like, no, that's not reality. Like I've been in helicopters, I've been in Cessnas, and I've been in Chinooks, and like you feel it.
One of the funniest thing to me, sorry, I remember hearing that there was a thing that you couldn't be an astronaut if you ever tried LSD. That was like a thing, and that makes so much sense to me because I feel like your brain's experienced too much perspective that if they put you in the rocket, you would know. You'd be like, oh man, I see Kubrick.
Yeah.
Right. But they said the NASA detects a human-made nuclear bubble protecting the Earth from radiation. So humans made this by accident. They keep saying because oops, we were shooting up nuclear. We didn't know what was going to happen. Oops, our bad. And then the radio waves just bounced it up there. And okay, so now we just have this radiation belt. But you know what? That's probably good because it's probably tearing other stuff up that's up there. I mean, we're not up there. You're not up there. You don't have to worry about it. So that's a pretty good deal for you. But then looking into the problems of it, okay, Operation Argus. was a series of United States low-yield, high-altitude nuclear weapons tests and missile tests secretly conducted from August 27th to 9th of September 1958 over the South Atlantic Ocean. And what it turns out they were really doing was trying to put nukes intentionally trying to create a nuclear field up in the atmosphere. So clearly they thought about it. There are papers on it. Scientists were trying to figure out how they could do it with 1.7 kilotons equivalent in nuclear explosions. So I mean, it's not an accident.
Have you ever heard the stuff of them trying to? Sorry, have you? Have you ever heard the stuff of them saying they're just trying to bust the glass? So every time they're shooting missiles and everything, it's just them trying to fucking put a crack in this windshield, and it just doesn't work.
Sure, and 88, like you just saw Task Force 88. 88 too is with the infinity symbols, with the with like the rotation, the analema, whatever you want to call it. Did some rotation pattern, and of like infinity, and there's so many other, like the figure 8, the spider, there's so much to that infinity symbol. I was up at 4:30 this morning. That's why I'm so like
Operation Dragoon also. So yeah, Dragoon, Task Force 88. Terrifying, man. I don't know. But yeah, the firmament blast is an interesting idea. Like you look at even like the Disney logo. I'll go back a second.
I love that stuff.
Or firm blast.
But I'm a simulation theorist. Like I do believe that this is a multidimensional, like artificial reality. That's heavily impacted by Toronto.
See, I think maybe there's some kind of thing we're all contributing to it, but what bugs me is it feels like we spend all this time trying to make spaceships and shit, but we're standing on a fucking spaceship. Like this thing is, if you're gonna say it's
that's true
in space, so why don't we just figure out how to steer this thing? You know what I mean? It's been parked for like 10,000 years or however long it's been. Why don't we just make an effort to try to fucking move
still want to be able to get off it,
rock about? Not really, man. If this is the ship, you just go to another place and get docked. You just teleport.
Buddy, I think you're docked. All right, like
I've been trapped here for a while, man. I've been trying to get off.
I mean, people have talked about that because the idea that the moon and the sun and all these things, they're saying there's hundreds of millions of years, billions of years, and it's going to take a long time. But what if it doesn't? And we ought to be prepared. And so people have written these papers on what if we had to move the Earth closer to the sun, or God forbid we had to contain the Earth while we moved it away, because about 8 minutes without the sun would be frozen. So how could we survive with geothermals? And but they have these plans, right, in case they need to move the Earth.
And like a few moons. They're saying like in the late 1800s, where there was a time to remember where there's no moon at all, or like there's like people that remember like the moon. I don't know. Like being put in the sky. So like I do believe that even like these possible luminaries, or even these like Phoenix resets or whatever that people are talking about, are possible like planned events where we're using this dome as a projection or a holographic field. Even with these alien invasions, in my humble opinion, are possibly like using advanced technologies and advanced air, land, and sea craft, and like and human species and possible other clones of other sorts. And duping us into thinking that this is like from like other realms, right? Like I feel like this is like a staged, like another psyops that's going to lead into like a lot of possible death, and it's going to be controlled by the same people that like are doing the pandemics and the convoys and the like the border stuff, right? And like and everything else that's going on in the world. It's all like rinse, recycle, repeat. Like the pandemics, like it's like even Partridge Island in Canada, like we have, like that was up from a few hundred years ago, and that was a quarantine island. Like it's anyway, and that's where they like took people, and then like they brought them to like different areas in North America, like even from that port. So
there's a big push about
get on board with like knowing what the plans are, knowing what the script is, and like getting, I don't even know, like.
Well, I mean, if all this stuff is happening and, they're warning you with don't look up, that there's an asteroid or there's going to be a nuclear destruction or something, basically it's always like, go underground. We have the dumbs already. Join us underground. All these stories talk about a reset that already happened, and there's already civilizations happening underground. You're talking about tunnels, this entire thing.
No way, man. That's a con. That's a con for the lizard people to snatch you up. Fuck that shit, man. Stay above ground. Keep looking up. Fuck that, man. Don't go underground. Subterranean? No way.
So an even weirder thing, we were talking about this the other day, is what's it called? The Thunderdome? What's that, right? Thunderdome?
Thunderdome?
what's it called in Ninja Turtles? Techno drone.
Oh, the Technodome or what is it?
Technodrome.
Yeah.
And so this whole thing is interesting because when we were kids, Philadelphia Experiment was kind of released in Ninja Turtles. Paranoid American was talking about Montauk and the Montauk connections to the sewers of New York and everything like that, even to Brunswick. But these stories all center around this Dimension X race that is able to exist in multiple planets, but they're really just Earth in different dimensions, at different space times or whatever. And in order to not mess with things in the different space times, they just live underground, right? So they land somewhere, then they stay a century, or they live in these giant alien ant farms underground. And we all saw Ninja Turtles, we remember that. But the new Ninja Turtles is freaky. The kids these days, the Ninja Turtles they're walking, it's all about these insectoids underground, right? And so it turns out, and the humans are related to the insectoids. The insectoids are some offspring super soldier race, which is the whole idea. So they're not even aliens, they're just part of our whole thing, and we're slowly becoming the insectoids, which you kind of jump to the quick with is the reptilian thing, right?
I mean, yeah, I'm watching it firsthand. Yeah, reptiles, bugs is a good one too. The bugs living underground. That's on some Starship Troopers shit. We're
Right.
gonna have to go to battle against the big bugs.
We get to become the bugs in this scenario, and then become food for the reptiles, like you said. It makes the most sense.
Yeah, no thanks, man.
Nah.
I'm gonna stick above ground. Let's get some flamethrowers. Let's torch these things. Fuck.
You
that.
can see how it's gonna happen too, because like transhumanism.
There are like even the Hopi tribe had like the ant people. There are different like nations that do have stories where they say that there was like underground people of varying sorts and descriptions that were again below ground. But there's also been like a lot of like mass atrocities because of people being underground, because of like poisons or gases being leaked, or like fires, or like or whatever, but and smoke inhalation and things like that. And but like also people that have survived possible like events that where like above ground during that period, like it was just not like habitable for whatever reason, like maybe like extreme cold. I have no idea, and it was just better underground. But you're right too, like people above ground too. Like there's also like a lot of stories too about these old ancient trees that were kilometers long, and people used to live like inside the trees and in caves and in mountains. And I've been to Spain and all over the world too, where like there's a lot of places still, even in Jerusalem, right, where there's a lot of caves dwellers and people like were living there too, to get away from these like a natural and man-made events that happen in these areas, and it's all over the world too. So there's underground and above ground and in trees that are not here anymore. Where
that was the first Men in Black was a giant bug, wasn't it? It was the cockroach that landed. Yeah, there was something there too.
Man, so good.
And that's like too, like cockroaches like never die, like no matter what kind of like what happens.
Oh, the first bug that lands, yeah.
And even with Men in Black,
and they have
White House, and then like the above it, right? This is all like occult hidden symbology to like these like
they got the best PR too. They survive nuclear blast, don't they? Cockroaches or something. You can't get better PR than that. We survive nuke attacks.
Oh, that is totally what that movie is about. So the insectoids are the ones that are waiting for the reset. They're gonna get there, and
And even Tremors with like worms like from underground as well too. Like this is also in like even
Tremors
like
is so good. I love Tremors.
Yeah, is that with Kevin Bacon?
Yeah, that's a classic.
First one, anyway.
Well, we're about 2 hours in. Is there anything else you want to make sure we cover before we introduce you guys? Is where you can get more of your content?
I'm good.
Rainbow Bright.
Firmament reminded me of Rainbow Bright. I don't know if you guys ever saw the Rainbow Bright movie, but it's amazing.
Can you go back to that Technodrome when you get a chance?
Yeah, for sure. Meditate on Technodrome, bro.
That thing was weird, man. No, that's okay. I can keep up, but the internet even cuts out. It's kind of cool. It's like a superpower. I see a very pyramid shape to it, man. It's got a very pyramid base with the eye on top. I've never noticed that before.
Wow.
That's very.
Now I need to get one. I never thought about how cool it would be to have it.
It's got a pyramid feeling to it for sure.
See, the thing is that eye is probably like a real bio-transhumanist eye, and there's brains that run this thing. It's like half alive, So that's the other thing about this technology from Dimension X. It's super wild stuff.
And that's why too, like a lot of celebrities are like people have groups like they do like the one eye thing, like it's tied to like the whole like Illuminati, Freemason. Like there's other groups, not just one group that has this like one eye, like left eye or whatever you want to call it in symbology.
A lot of people talk about the LGBT stuff with Rainbow Bright, but I think they missed the Canadian inversion of the maple leaf on the boy character. And
Whoa!
there's a whole thing here because like Rainbow Bright, you know, you've seen the cartoon, you know, I don't know if you've seen the cartoon even, but reptilians is a big thing in the cartoon. So if you see even if you just watch like the first couple episodes, basically she shows up in this magical land and there's these like dragons that have trapped all the kids. I don't know if I can even find it, but she defeats these lizard people. Can I find the lizard people? There it is. These guys, these are like rapists in cloaks that tear off their cloaks right before she shines her rainbow right out of her, you know, into their
yeah,
face.
there's a lot of gory stuff. Like even with He-Man and She-Ra, there's like reptile or lizard type people as well. And there's actually twin stuff going on with He-Man and She-Ra too. They were twins and then separated at birth, and that whole story of like the yin and yang duality piece as well. And anyway.
But she kind of defeats the reptilians pretty early on, so that doesn't end up being her big problem. What ends up being Rainbow Bright's big problem is the big sister, right? Where's the evil? There she is. This is the big sister, and so she's got this obsession with diamonds. You know, she's very East Coast, and so she's trying to block out the biggest diamond in the universe, which the light from the suns all shine through, these 13 different suns, in order to make rainbows on Earth possible. You know what I mean? So like she doesn't care. She just wants the diamond. She wants to have the biggest diamond in the universe. So they have to fight to save Earth, right? And it's all about her selfishness. And I think this is interesting because this is the made for TV. Kids are going to be indoctrinated by Order of the Eastern Star.
And Sleeping Beauty too, right? Wasn't the Wicked Witch the one that the one that wasn't the most beautiful? Didn't she have a diamond too? With like and it was like she, like
But it's not even what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, hey, don't be selfish, care about each other, be part of the new Agenda 21 pilot program, save the world, you know, like OK Canada. So I wonder, do you think that is something we're missing? We're always like, oh, these guys are so bad. Trudeau, he's so terrible. Yeah, he does cocaine, but you know what I mean? Does that mean
that a reverse was that a reverse star? Like was that like what the
this is the Order of the Eastern Star symbol for the female Freemason para group.
And then with the reverse like that's like with the crown and the horn. Like,
and then they have a group called Job's Daughters, which are like the group underneath the Order of the Eastern Star. And then, you know, so if you're a good Masonic daughter, your mother's in the Order of the Eastern Star and you join the Job's Daughters, and then you end up with a scholarship and probably a house. So it's worth it, I would say, probably. But you get to wear these kinds of costumes. So it's not out of place if you're a Mormon, I guess. Otherwise, it's pretty different. Or if you were like in Athenian homeschool plays. Did you ever do that? It's the only way that's going to make sense to you. But yeah, so that's the Order of the Eastern Star. And so that is Rainbow Bright. And for me, I think that's the question. Do you think that the AI, transhumanist, evil, satanic, we're always like, oh, it's so terrible what's coming. But are we just like not optimists? It's good to be cynical, but I mean, these guys are really trying. They're really trying. It's like my sweatshirt, right? With this hammer and sickle. And it says, this time it will work, growing out of the garden. So, I mean, are we going to get there? Are they going to get there? Or is there any chance of like us working together and like the New World Order being like kind of nice? Or is that just not in the cards?
Well, get there or die trying, right?
No, man. I wouldn't say. I would say no. They kind of gotta sit this one out, this next chapter, because they fucked around for too long. They had their chance, and I think it's time. You know, we kind of the people take it back a little bit. Let these guys take a break. Let them. You know, their evil plans were thwarted. Let them go back to the drawing board. You know, give us another 25,000 years or whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't know, like I'm like on this peaceful train. As shocking as people like people believe that I'm the opposite of that, but like I do honestly believe that being like peaceful and trying to like cooperate in a collective way, is the best solution out of this, right? Like I don't believe in more war or any of that stuff, right? Like even when we were overseas, it was to like have less war, to end war, right? We wanted things to be safe, and did like humanitarian. We were lied to about a lot of things too, right? So like there's a lot of MK Ultra stuff that goes on where you think that you're being of service and stuff like that. But if people knew better, they would do better. So I think that the more we can actually like be peaceful and communicate with people and just like try to like be more truthful what's going on in the world, people are not going to be so they're not going to block it out, right? Because we're so divided right now, and there's so many like emotionally weak people, and like it's gotten even worse since the pandemic, right? So until we are able to like make people feel like we're not a threat, like and we're gonna have to coddle people, right? Almost like to make them feel like we're not a threat, right? Because like anything that goes against what they're thinking now, a lot of people, right? Like they block it out. They can't even like cope with it, right? And so peaceful and be like very patient with people, and then just like consistent, like just with the message of like trying to be like above everyone else, right? Because it's bigger than us. There's a lot of people that need us to be like stable and healed.
Stable and participatory, consistent.
Yeah.
Kurt, I say shake it up, man.
And it's not linear.
I say shake it up. We've been too nice too long, especially the Canucks. Fucking man.
Yeah,
we've apologized. We've apologized for everything. Now it's time we fucking get a little angry. It's time we don't do this passive aggressive shit, man.
Yeah, man. Time to get funky.
Yeah. Kurt, you're aware of like, we're all trying to make amazing art and try to like help connect the world. They're constantly trying to suppress it. Do you think that we're able to get the information out there? What do you think is going to happen?
In order to what, like prevent Ragnarok or what?
I mean, yeah, but it's like, it seems like there is this kind of perpetual nepotism that's keeping all of these quality creators and their solutions from entering the world and disrupting the hegemony. The hegemony is constantly trying to stop solutions from appearing naturally, because there's always people like, hey, I just came up with the solution to the problem. Some kid in some, library or some middle, inner city school somewhere programs something that's going to just destroy a $1 trillion oil refineries monopoly on something, because all of a sudden people can trade with each other. There's all these solutions. There's music that can inspire people. There's ideas for movies that would not be satanic and disruptive of your ethic or your self-esteem,
Yeah, I think I don't know. You could put it in a lot of ways. I guess the way out is through, or you could also say there's a certain degree to where if we think of the world in terms of archetypes and forms, you could say the rich are destined to kind of eat themselves. Excess breeds decadence and degeneracy. I think that's the ultimate path of decadence is waste, but it's of the waste primarily of the class and the people that actually engage in those things. So let's theoretically, if we continue, I guess, just depleting resources and thinking of, I guess, capitalism in general as just this endless sea of what can we dominate, those things, it's a plan that's destined for failure. But I guess the connection there is if we think that the meek do inherit the earth, well, that might mean the people that just stay out of all that bullshit or bull crap, are the people that actually can are fit to take over that world and actually rebuild in the ashes and all that stuff.
The meek inheriting the earth seems like it's just the homeless people, man. They know how to live outside the best. They're resilient. When everything goes down, they're like, great, man, we get this shit back.
Exactly. I see it kind of like the Germans after World War II. It's like, if you didn't sign up, this is your chance. Like, that's what's going to be like here, probably. Well, bro, let me pull up some of your streams here. So, Don, super stoked. Make sure that you guys do this. You click on this button here. I did it so you can see again. Push the subscribe button. I want to see this hit, thousands of people. Rumble is the place to get the content where they're not going to delete the things that Dawn says. Yeah. They might not even censor it, because I think she records it just beforehand so that they can't even cut the audio out, which is it's amazing. You go into 6 not quite disclosed facts about psychological operations in Canada, and then they try to push her off a bridge. But here she is, Dawn. I like the content you do. I'm glad that you're bringing all this stuff to the relevance of people. It's amazing. Every time I talk to you, there's 6 things. And then I'm like, why is this not on the front page? This is insane. They tried to poison an entire lake. I mean,
I just got deleted.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then also, this is her Instagram. You can go from her Instagram and you can see, from here, it's probably easier to even find other things that she's doing. in case
You
channels
have to type my name out in full because I'm very hidden, and there's a warning to even follow me. So like you have to like type it out in full and then accept it.
They're like, hey, just so you know, we're gonna be following you now because you followed Dawn. So, Divulgence Podcast, one of the greatest podcasts in the world. Jordan, thank you very much for all your time. And then the things that you can watch on here are incredible too. You've got talks with everybody. I mean, just
dropping a new episode tonight, so make sure to check that out. Please subscribe on YouTube. I'm also on Odyssey, Rumble, BitChute, and audio can be found just about anywhere. So if you can, please follow me on Spotify. Give me a 5-star on Spotify and Apple. That would be much appreciated. A 5-star review would really be helpful. So yeah, check out Divulgence, and we got more to come.
Yep. Right here's the Apple podcast. You can go here, click on that button, give himself a higher review. And then American Time Machine, some of the greatest music in the history of America or time or machines, even like since the Industrial Revolution. This is some of my favorite stuff.
Both.
So Kurt, amazing album here. Some really good stuff. Tulsi Gabbard is hot. Who's to argue with this? Joe Biden has dementia, which is it's rising in popularity. Clussy is still one of my favorites. Earlier in here, I think it's the Witchcraft album. I Almost Had a Girlfriend. Still one of my favorite songs I've ever written. I think it's just amazing. It's not just the lyrics. I swear, it's also the vibe, feeling. It's good. And then Kevin Soldo. You might get him confused with the Christian actor who's in some films, right? Is that Sorbo? Kevin Sorbo? But that's the wrong Kevin. Kevin Sorbo. He's a decent Kevin. Like this isn't a bad Kevin. But if you want to get the real, you want to get the real Kevin Soldo, this is where you go. And so Kevin Soldo, not sold out, never sold out, full Kevin Soldo. And this is, but Sold Out for Freedom is the name of the album, and it's based, super based.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, the art's great.
Dude, Google Paranoia, Grim Futures, Robot Brothels. Make sure you listen to Robot Brothels. It's important.
Yeah. It's a prediction of the future that's coming.
Yeah, man.
It's like coming on Thursday. It's almost here.
Yeah.
Guys, I love you very much. And gal, and everybody in between. And we'll see you next time. MK Canada. Peace out.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Canada is a country. Waves of people came to this country, were welcomed by the folks who've lived here for millennia, the First Nation. And built this society with waves of people fleeing religious persecution, fleeing tyranny, fleeing to try and build a better life for themselves here than they had back home. Whether it's folks fleeing from world wars or fleeing from civil wars, these people always want the same thing: to be able to live in peace, to raise their families, create a better future for themselves and their communities. And that is what generations created, this extraordinary diverse society we have. Now, Canada remains one of the only countries in the world where citizens are, by and large, positively inclined. And one of the reasons we are that way is because Canadians have confidence in our